Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be challenging myself to spend as little money as I can on my food bill over the next 2 weeks. So over the next 14 days, I'm going to see how little I can spend but still survive and still be healthy. So I've got £100 here, okay? 100 quid. So that's about what? Yeah, about $100 or so, €100. So is £100, 100 quids enough to be healthy? Do you need to spend at least £100 on your food bill to be healthy? Well, I can think of a lot of foods that you could buy in order to spend £100 in 2 weeks. And that, yeah, obviously it depends. If you've got a larger family, you're going to be spending more money. But foods that come to mind that probably cost quite a lot is maybe be buying steaks. Yeah, steaks, they could be quite expensive, can't they? A bottle of olive oil, that's quite expensive. Milk's quite expensive, isn't it, if you think about it? So if you're buying milk regularly, maybe you're buying bits of chicken. You're buying chicken as well, maybe for your tea, for dinner most nights. Yeah, there's quite a lot of expensive food you can get, isn't there? You get some expensive cakes, expensive sweets. So yeah, so you could definitely spend a lot on your food bill. But what about £80? £80? Could you spend £80 and still be healthy? I think you could probably spend £80. What about £60? Put that £20 away. What if you only had £60 every 2 weeks? Could you survive on that? I think we could go lower than that. What about if we only had £40? £40? £40 every 2 weeks? Could one person survive on £40 for 2 weeks? What if we went £30? What about £30? Now we're getting a bit tricky. There's quite a few foods now that I don't think you'd be able to afford. What about £10? What about if we only had £10 to spend in 2 weeks and still be healthy? Well, I think that would probably be pushing it a bit. I think we need a little bit more than that. What about £14? Okay, so I've got a £10 note, a £2 coin, and two £1 coins there. So what if we only had £14 to spend over 14 days? What if I said I could spend a little bit less than that, and actually survive off less than £1 a day, or $1 a day, or €1 a day? In fact, what if I was able to survive off this much? 95p. So I'm going to be living off 95p a day for 14 days. Will I survive? Well, holy moly. That's not very much money, is it? Now, before I go any further, I want to outline by what I mean by how little money can you spend. So less than £1 a day, or less than $1, or less than €1 a day. I need to explain the premises or the basis of, well, what actually is being healthy on that amount of money. So what I mean firstly is, on this channel I don't necessarily promote calorie counting as a normal healthy day-to-day activity you should do. If you're eating the right foods, the foods that are fit for human beings, therefore, just like every other animal on the planet doesn't go around counting its calories, it just eats the diet that is for the animal. So I think there is a human diet, and you'll realize that once you eat the foods, and I'm going to show you, okay? That's why this video is amazing, because you'll also actually find out that the foods that I'm going to show you are actually the ones that you should be eating. So if you're uncontrollably gaining weight and therefore needing to count calories to limit your weight gain, that's because you're eating the wrong foods. Okay, so how many other animals do you see in nature stop before they go to eat, whip out a notepad, smash away at a calculator and go, well, I'm having too many calories? It doesn't happen, does it? Okay, and if you've ever noticed as well, the only animals in nature, or the only other animals that get fat, inverted commas, they get obese, are animals that hang around human beings, just like cats and dogs, because they're not eating their diet. Okay, it becomes obvious if you think about it. So I'm going to show you what the breakdown of the calories will be from the foods that I recommend. So that's first thing. You'll get adequate amount of calories, so you won't be starving. Okay, you're not going to starve to death. So that's the first thing. So make sure you get enough calories. And then secondly, when we think about the minerals, okay, minerals, vitamins, micronutrients, and macronutrients. So there's 5 macronutrients. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough healthy carbohydrates, healthy fats, healthy protein, healthy fiber, and then water. So what I'm going to do with this challenge is, just for the foods, I'm going to spend as little as I can on the food that I need. And then obviously I'm not going to take into account how much water would cost. Okay, so that's discarded. So that's a separate thing. Okay, that just depends on your individual water bill. So I'm not accounting for that. So I can drink as much water as I want without that affecting spending as little, because obviously if you take into that account, you'd have to be drinking from a while, you'd have to be drinking from a stream, and obviously that's not healthy. And then if you wanted to drink from the stream using a water purifier, or to clean the water, or that would cost money. So obviously I'm discarding the cost of that. So you'll get all of the healthy macronutrients that you need. Okay, so we're making sure we're getting that, and the minerals and vitamins. Okay, so there's 13 vitamins, and 11 of them come from plants. Okay, so the actual vitamins themselves, so you got 13, 11 of them are produced by plants, and then 2 of them are actually not vitamins. Okay, so of these 2, one of these is B12. So B12 actually comes from bacteria in the soil. So the bacteria use cobalt in the soil, and they use a number of quite complex processes in order to create B12. So that's why the proper name for B12 is, well, it has a few different names, but the one that is the best for you is methylcobalamin. So I don't recommend, for example, so there's other different types that you can get. So methylcobalamin is the one you want to get. And when I mean you want to get that's from your diet, and specifically from taking, an injection or a pill. So I'm not going to necessarily aim for getting B12, because that's a bit more of a nuanced topic with B12, because people say, you know, B12 comes from animal products. Well, the only reason why B12 is in animal products is just because essentially it's contaminated with B12. Okay, so animals don't make B12. Okay, B12 is created initially from bacteria in the soil, and then essentially we get it as it moves along the food chain. So you know, that's a bit more of a complex one. So you can, I've got videos already on B12, but that's an interesting topic. Okay, so that's quite a divisive topic because people always think, oh, you need to get it from animal products. Well, it's actually from bacteria. Okay, bacteria produce that. So you don't want cyanocobalamin. Okay, so that's literally cyanide. When you ingest that, you're getting cyanide. So obviously you stick to methylcobalamin. So that's a methyl group, or a methyl group is just CH3, so a carbon with 3 hydrogens, so that's fine. So that's fine for you. And then the other vitamin is actually, it's a steroid, it's not a vitamin, and that's from the action of the sun hitting your skin, your body produces vitamin D. So don't necessarily need to worry about that. Just if you go out every day for 5 minutes into the sun and let the sun kiss you, okay, through reaction from the energy from the sun, your body will make vitamin D. So you don't need to worry about that supplementing. So there's another thing. I'm not going to be taking any supplements. Okay, I'm not going to take any multivitamins or minerals or supplements. Okay, just eating food. And then the minerals. Okay, so minerals, actually all minerals come from plants, because minerals are actually ions. So when the earth was forming, all of the elements that are available in the planet came about when essentially there was a supernova and all of the elements were created. And then when the planet formed from the dust cloud, you know, billions of years ago, if that's what you believe in, or if a great being created the planet, well, either way, either it came from divine creation or from just the Big Bang. Essentially, all the minerals and ions that are in the planet become bioavailable to animals through plants. So due to weathering and water, as the rocks get eroded and soil is formed, so you get iron and calcium and zinc and magnesium, they come available in the soil. Then when a plant grows, it sucks up all of the minerals. So like, for example, iron or magnesium. And then as the plant grows, it incorporates all of these minerals into its stems and its leaves. So for example, in the leaves of plants, you'll find iron and magnesium. And the reason for this is because at the center of chlorophyll, so chlorophyll is essentially, if you imagine the sun's coming in and it's hitting, so you got an old leaf here. So this all shriveled up now, but because it's autumn. But when you're in the summer and the leaves are out and they're absorbing energy from the sun, the leaves use the energy of the sun in order to create glucose. So the energy from the sun and CO2 from the air plus water, they use that to create glucose, and they have magnesium. Okay, magnesium is at the center of chlorophyll in the cells in plants. So there you go. And also they have iron as well. So iron is needed in photosynthesis as a way for electrons, okay, electrons to move within the cell. And iron is used in that way because just like iron is used in your red blood cells, its charge, it has a +4 charge, so it's able to accept 4 electrons. So that's why you have iron at the center of your red blood cells, because it's able to hold 4 oxygen molecules to transport around your body. So we're going to make sure that we get enough calories. we're going to make sure we get all of our vitamins and minerals, and also excluding those ones that actually aren't. So B12, that's another separate issue, and then vitamin D, that's another separate thing. But the 11 others, yes. And the 18 essential, so you've got 13 vitamins, and I say 11 of those made by plants, the other 2 aren't. And then of the minerals, you've got 18 minerals. And again, plants, they all find them from the soil. And then those 15, so of those 18, 15 come from the soil. And then the 3 that don't is those that come from the air. So carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. And then whether you eat animals or you just eat plants, so if you're vegan or not vegan, the animals that you're eating, the minerals that are in its body, like iron, they all eventually come from plants, because, as I say, as the stomach can't recreate the conditions of a dying star with millions of degrees and huge temp and huge pressure. Okay, so elements are created in stars, in supernova. They're not created in the insides, the stomach of an animal. So when you eat an animal and you're supposedly absorbing the iron came from the plant, okay, eventually. And then the breakdown of, also we want to make sure of the macronutrients, so protein. So everyone always worries about our protein. Well, are we going to get all of the essential amino acids? So there's 20 accepted amino acids, and then of those 20 amino acids, 8 of them are essential. So we can make 12 in our bodies from the foods we eat, but 8 of them we have to get from our diet, and they're called essential because we can't make them in our bodies. So we have to get them from our diet. So again, where amino acids actually come from is in plants. So the animal kingdom, when an animal eats plants, it takes in the protein from the plant. So all plants generate all 20 amino acids. And if you think about it, they have to, because just like plants, when you look around you, you know, the huge trees and everything, you know, all the plant kingdom, it can't eat animals to get its dietary requirement of amino acids. So plants have to be able to generate all of the amino acids they need in order to grow their bodies and their stems and their leaves. So they're made out of proteins, just like we are as animals, so the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. So the animal kingdom actually relies on the plant kingdom to give the amino acids that the animal kingdom needs. So, and there's a lot of animals wandering around as well. So when you're eating, again, if you're eating animal foods, animal products, you're essentially eating recycled animal protein. So the plant grows, an animal eats the plant, and then if another animal eats that animal, you're just eating recycled plant protein. So the amino acids that are produced when the plant protein is broken down inside, let's say a sheep, when you eat a sheep or a chicken or whatever animal it might be you eat, you're essentially just getting the amino acids that were formed the protein in plants. They're broken down, and then they're recombined within the body of the animal you're eating to create its body. So there's that. So if you're eating food and not just a synthetic diet, for example, of just white table sugar, so 2,500 calories of white table sugar, you'll get all of the protein you need. So you don't need to worry about that. So that's why it all comes back to, if you're eating a diet that has enough, that's sufficient in calories and is food. So once I show you, I'm going to be eating at least 2,500 calories a day. So I'm not going to be in a calorie starvation mode. So I'm going to be getting enough calories in order to get all of the micronutrients and macronutrients that you need. So I hope you're still following along. I want to give, confidence and detail and understand that actually you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to be healthy. And once you realize, well, what does the body actually need? Well, it needs all the macronutrients that it needs, all the micronutrients that it needs. And then once you've got enough of them, you're at your healthiest. So I actually promote a high sugar freedom lifestyle, which is vegan. And this is lots of carbohydrate calories, but low in fat and low in protein calories, and also lots of fiber calories. So a lot of people actually think that fiber doesn't provide any calories, but fiber actually quite often provides 2 calories per gram. Okay, so fat is about 9 calories per gram, and pure carbohydrate, i.e. in the form of white table sugar, so white table sugar is about 4 calories per gram, and then protein is also about 4 calories per gram, and fiber, the digestible fiber in our diet, is actually 2 calories per gram of the digestible type of fiber. And fiber is actually sugar or carbohydrate or sugar that can't be broken down by the body. And fiber is good because that allows your digestive system to work. So no getting red face on the toilet from constipation. Okay, if you've got fiber in your diet, the bowels work well, and you do the number 2, 1 a day. Okay, so I won't go into any fart jokes, but that allows you to feel comfortable in your body. Okay, so Dennis Burkitt, you probably not have heard of him, but Dennis Burkitt was the expert on essentially bowel health and looking at constipation. And he said that populations that have large stools, okay, so large poos, large stools, have small hospitals, but those populations that have small stools have large hospitals. Okay, so if your stool is small because you're constipated, you'll get all of the health consequences, negative health consequences of that. Whereas if your stool is large and it's 1 a day, then you'll get the positive health consequences. Okay, so won't go into any more of that because I know some people are squeamish when it comes to that. So I'm going to show you the foods now that I'm going to eat, and I hope you enjoy the video and like and subscribe, and you'll always be able to see that I'm always healthy and lean on a vegan, high sugar, low fat, low protein diet with no calorie counting, enjoying feeling full of energy, not worrying about whether I'm getting all of the minerals or vitamins that I need, all the macronutrients. I got all the macronutrients in the healthy, normal ratio. And if you think about it, if you are eating the foods that are meant to be eaten by human beings, if you try it, okay, so try the foods that I eat, see what happens, and you'll find out that you don't need to worry about calorie counting. If you're eating the foods that are meant to be eaten, you don't get the food poisoning. Okay, so I call it food poisoning when you suffer from obesity, gaining weight uncontrollably, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all of these chronic diseases, they're from food poisoning. So if you stop the food poisoning, you stop the obesity, you stop the diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetics are helped, but it's incurable. Okay, so type 1 is incurable, but type 2 can be reversed by just losing weight. So if you've got any comments or questions, put them in the comment section below. And thank you for your time. Drum roll, please. I'm about to make the big reveal. So here is everything that I'm going to eat. Okay, this is everything that this all comes to less than £14. So this I'll put actually on the screen. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like £13 and 35p, something like that. But this all comes to here, so get rid of that towel. So this comes to an average of consuming 2,586 calories a day. So if you average out the calories you get from this food here, it averages 2,586 calories a day. And no, that's not a restrictive, so that's not a starvation diet. So you're not starving on 2,586 calories. So I need to put that into context. If you just want to survive and thrive from day to day and not be in a starvation mode, then that's enough. But if you wanted to thrive and thrive, so I always promote, exercise, because that's part of, I think, a lifestyle that allows you to thrive for health. You're going to need more calories than that. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble. So this is really, if you're watching this video and it's just the world, how the world works over and over and over again, if you're in a position where you need to, tighten your belt, things are tough, then you can survive and you can still be healthy on spending as little or as less than £1, $1, €1 a day. So I've got to start off with, without dropping anything. And no, I'm not counting the beautiful apples around me. No, I'm not counting them. Although if you do find a beautiful apple tree this time of year, right at the beginning of winter or end of autumn, you'll find some amazing apples here in the UK. So that's not counting though. So I've got this big bag, this 10 kilo bag of white rice. Okay. So just in this 10 kilo bag, there's altogether 35,100 calories. And that cost about $8.99, I think that was, from a wholesale market. So if you get big bags of white basmati rice, you can buy them really cheap. And the cheapest you can get white rice is at a wholesale market. So you get them in large packs. So don't go for the 1 kilo packs, because they will, per 100 grams, be more expensive. Whereas the larger packs, although this 10 kilo bag in itself costs more than a 1 kilo bag, per 100 grams, this is much, much, much cheaper. So this is about 8.9 pence, about 9 pence per 100 grams dry weight cooked rice. Okay. And I've got some soy sauce. So I'm literally counting everything in the budget. So I'm not even, herbs and spices and condiments that you put on is in this. So I've got a bottle of soy sauce, reduced soy sauce. I've got a 100-gram bag of pepper. Okay, so it's been sort of half ground up. So it's not full peppercorns. So I think if you're getting it like this, sort of half ground, so it's not quite a really fine ground up. It's not, like really fine like you get in, if you went to a restaurant. So I think if you're buying it like this, so it's been slightly ground up, you're getting more, than just if you bought large pepper kernels. So there's that. So yeah, I can grind it up more and I'll get more out of that. So if I grind it up more, I've got 2 jars of tomato sauce, and I'll leave a breakdown on the screen of how much individually they cost. I've got a bag of 5 oranges, and then two loose oranges. So just off the top of my head, as far as I remember, but I'll put it on the screen. The rice, I think, was about $8.99. The pepper was about £1.10. The soy sauce was about 59p. The oranges were about 99p. The jars of tomato sauce each, I think, were 59p. and then the oranges each were 30p. So how did I come to the conclusion that this was the way to go to spend this little money? So I looked at, well, there is actually, if you're watching this in the Western world, and yeah, a lot of people, yeah, they struggle with money day to day, but there is actually, most likely, if you're watching this in the Western world, there's people who are suffering more than you are. Okay, so there are still billions, okay, that's with a B, billions of people living on this planet that live on $1 a day. So about $1 or €1 or £1 a day. Billions, that's with a B. Surviving, okay, surviving, not malnourished, but still surviving day to day, getting the adequate amount of calories and nutrients that they need. And yes, there are populations on the planet. There's millions of people that day to day do suffer malnutrition, but there are larger groups, larger populations on the planet that are living on very, very little money, but they're not, so they're impoverished, but they're not malnourished. Okay, so that's a very important distinction that needs to be made. So, for example, in Asia, white rice is the staple food and it provides the bulk of the calories. So, I've modeled this guide, this challenge, and I want it to be a guide really as well to people who think they're struggling. You know, and I've known lots of people who struggle, money issues, and they immediately jump to high fat. Okay, because they just think, well, I need fat because that's, you know, they go for the processed. Quite often I see people will fill their trolleys with like processed nut bars, you know, like, literally cold pressed fruit and nut bars, but specifically high fatty foods, and they think that that's just, you know, in the Western world, that's what you jump to if, you know, you supposedly want to save money, you jump to the high fat things. Well, the countries that are suffering from, you know, chronic diseases in the world, got hair in my mouth, excuse me. So we think about America, the West, you know, Europe, anywhere that's been westernized, we're suffering from chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, atherosclerosis, so artery diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, kidney failure, eye damage, going blind, on and on and on, all these chronic diseases that are all linked. And it's the food, okay? It's the food. So the westernized world, when you go from being, you know, poor, inverted commas, and not industrialized to industrialized and being able to buy food, the rich food, okay, so rich being rich in fat and protein. So that's what that means. You move from foods like high starch foods, high starch calorie food and fruits to, sorry about the noise. So as I was saying, you replace one source of fuel, so source of energy from fat. Okay, so you can either get your sources of calories from fat or sources of calories from carbohydrates, and you associate ill health with high fat. So diabetes, the main cause is saturated fat, and saturated fats from animal products, mainly from animal products. And then once you switch to high carbohydrate, you get rid of all these things that we associate with ill health, like you get rid of high cholesterol, high dietary cholesterol, you get rid of fat, you minimize fat, and you reverse type 2 diabetes. So sugar and carbohydrate doesn't cause diabetes, and it's excess dietary fat. And again, we know this because populations that live on, you know, adequate amount of calories eating white rice don't suffer from diabetes. It's, when you look at population studies, okay, the unhealthy people on the planet are people in the West, okay, people watching this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, this is going to break down into 3 bowls of white rice a day. Okay, 3 bowls of white rice a day, and that's going to be about 230 grams dry weight, so that'll cook up about 3 times that. And with that, I'm going to add some soy sauce for taste and also some pepper. And with that, I'm going to cut. So I'm going to cut these oranges in half. So those 5 make 10. And then I'm going to cut these oranges in half. So that will be half an orange each day. And then obviously two jars of tomato sauce isn't going to last 2 weeks. So some days I'll also have some tomato sauce with the rice. And yeah, there's no orange juice within the budget for £1 a day is also covered, having these condiments, as you call it. So I wanted everything to be covered. I didn't want, there to be anything free, inverted commas. So I wanted it all to be able to be bought within £1 a day. And then obviously, water. I can drink as much water as I want. But yeah, there's no fruit juice. This is it. Okay, this is about 95p's worth of food a day, totaling on average this many calories. So because rice is an above ground storage organ, okay, so it's a seed, it's a grain, okay, so the plants, when it's growing, it's storing glucose as starch, and it can either store starch or fuel, sugar, above ground in above ground storage organs, so like this, so like white rice, or it can store them as underground storage organs like tubers, okay, so like potatoes. And so that's another source. But white rice is actually the cheapest food on the planet for the amount of calories you get. Okay, so if you're ever in doubt, go for white rice. And say this is not just about being able to survive, saving money, this challenge. It's also about being healthy as well at the same time. So white rice is an above ground storage organ. It has everything you need, but it's apart from 2 things, okay, 2 nutrients. It's lacking vitamin A and vitamin C. So that's also where the oranges come in. So if I have a slice of orange a day, so if that slices up, these all slice them in half. I have half an orange a day, and I'll be getting my vitamin A and my vitamin C from the orange juice. And then obviously, yes, there's vitamins and minerals in the soy sauce, some in the black pepper, and then obviously, excuse me, in the sauce, tomato sauce as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. And there's some processed foods, okay, but these are low in fat. They're low in protein, but they're not lacking fat and they're not lacking protein, and they're high in carbohydrates, so high in starch. You've got simple sugars. This will also help you to improve your health. So you might just find that you'll lose weight, and yes, it's generally lower calorie foods, but if you break that down to me having about 600 grams or so of cooked white rice a meal, so about 1800 grams of cooked white rice a day. I'll probably put it on the screen exactly, but this is not going to leave me wanting to eat more. Okay, this is satiating, and you'll realize that once you cut out all the excess fat and all the excess protein, starch is very, very filling. Okay, that's satiating because the starch in your stomach, it distends the stomach, and it gives you the natural feedback of feeling like you're full. Whereas if you're eating very concentrated calories like oils and fats, they take up less room, literally take up less room because they're concentrated calories. So you don't get that satiation of the feeling of feeling full as well. So that's something to take into account. So yeah, if you wanted to, all you could do is just add a little bit more of this. So just add a little bit more fruit, add in some more fruit juices, and you would still be only living off maybe £2 a day, maybe £3 a day. And you just, yeah, if you felt like you wanted to eat a little bit less rice and a little bit more fruit, but you can still eat healthy and actually, I think, increase your health, eat more healthy. The only thing is, yeah, if you're exercising, running, cycling, whatever it is you choose, I recommend cycling because that's the best way to exercise. Okay, I think that's the way that gives you the most amazing sense of freedom. It's the best way to lose weight, and it's also sustainable because you're not going to get injured. Okay, so cycling is the only sport where you can do it for like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours one day, or 100 miles, finish, rest and recover overnight during sleep, get up the next day and do that again without feeling like your body's going to fall apart. Whereas if you did you went for a run for maybe an hour, just, or even 20 minutes, the next day you might be sore. So that's why cycling is amazing, because you can sustainably, day after day, do it and lose weight. But if you're doing that, yes, you will need more rice, you'll need more carbohydrate. So yeah, I recommend using white table sugar to fuel your exercise while you're exercising. But yeah, white rice. Just look at the world, okay? It shouldn't be a mystery, really. You don't need to be buying those foods that are high in fat, they're high in concentrated calories, processed foods with high fat, lots of protein. And yes, protein is about the same per gram as white table sugar, but white rice here, this is about 2 calories per gram. Okay, 2 calories per gram. And if this was a little bottle of olive oil, okay, or oil, that's 9 calories per gram. So you can concentrate your calories down into the more calorie dense foods, and it literally takes up more room. Or you can have it like this, how you can eat the foods that are meant to be eaten by humans. Okay, so this is the human diet, is starch. And I think particularly white rice is amazing because it's cheap, it's easy to prepare, and you can keep it like this, it lasts. Okay, you can store it. And then you've got simple sugars from fruit. So there's no processed crackers and crisps and burgers and sausages, and there's no animal products. Okay, so I don't recommend animal products, as I already said, it's vegan. Now, animal products are carcinogens. Okay, so meat is classified by the World Health Organization, unanimously voted to classify meat as a carcinogen 10 years ago. So I'm filming this in 2025, November 2025. So it's been classified for 10 years. It's still classified, and there's more and more and more and more science showing that it is. So it's not going the opposite way. We're not becoming less sure and we're going to remove it as a carcinogen. We're only getting more and more confident that yes, it is a carcinogen. So that's just meat alone. And then milk. Okay, milk is linked to type 1 diabetes. So it causes an autoimmune response, which leads to the destruction of your beta cells in your pancreas. And then there's all these links to essentially molecular mimicry of the body, not realizing that the protein coming from animal products that gets across through leaky gut, again caused by a low fiber diet. So animal products are low in fiber or no fiber. There's no sugars, no carbohydrates in animal products. So every cell in the human body runs on sugar, runs on carbohydrate. And when the body gets ill and sick, it can switch to ketosis for survival. But that's just for survival. Whereas the body runs on sugar. That's the primary energy system through glycolysis. And then you've got oxidative phosphorylation in the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. And you don't need to poison your body with all of these westernized, processed, high-fat, high-protein animal products. The answer is the food. And this is satiating, you get everything you need. And if you're always worried about, well, it's vegan or that's unhealthy, most people are not vegan or on the low-fat lifestyle, but most people are sick. If you think about it, if you look around you, most people are overweight, most people are obese, so many people are diabetic, have heart disease, high blood pressure, constipated, have artery disease. But you never see anyone who's low-fat vegan. Okay, no one's low-fat vegan, high carbohydrate, but everyone's sick. Everywhere you look, it's like, oh my God. Okay, once you see it, and I'm making the point, I'm specifically making a point, okay? Once you look around and stop and look around, okay? Oh my God, I see it. You know, how many times I look around me and I think, well, you know, most men, when they turn sideways, they look, 3 to 6 months pregnant. And I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm just saying that's the horrific reality we live in. So many people are overweight, and it's not because they're eating like this. Okay, so you can't blame the lifestyle you're not leading for the way you look and the way you feel. So I'm always lean and healthy. And yes, I probably eat on average more than this, okay, a day, because I want to be able to thrive, and I have the ability to spend at least more than $1 a day. But yeah, if you wanted to spend your $2 a day, just add a little bit more fruit, a little bit more rice. Also, you could add in something like pasta as well, so that's really cheap, or potatoes. Just keep it low fat, low protein, vegan, as little processed as you can. You don't need necessarily to eat processed foods. You can just stick to, I think, from my research, it becomes obvious this is the foods that are fit for human beings. Because when you eat like this, you don't get sick, you don't get overweight, and you don't become diabetic, and your arteries don't go. Okay, your arteries don't go. Okay. If you got any comments or questions, put them in the comment section below. And if you think I'm an idiot, then also let me know. But also, if you do think I'm an idiot, okay, here's another thing, okay? If you do think I'm an idiot, then, let me know why, okay? And give me named reasons for actual processes for why maybe carbohydrate causes diabetes if you think it does. And don't just say, well, the body gets tired, the pancreas gets tired, okay? And that's the only reason I get here, is why will carbohydrate make someone diabetic, is, well, the pancreas and the body's system with dealing with sugars, glucose, the body just gets tired, okay? Well, if you use your brain a lot, do you get more stupid or more clever the more you think? Or if the more you run and exercise, does your body get more tired and you get less fit with training and exercise, or do you get more fit with training? So it's about the type of food, not about how much of it you eat, okay? So if you're eating the wrong food, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're eating the wrong food, you're going to get sick. And the way that you try and limit that, mitigate that, is by counting calories, because you're eating the wrong foods. Whereas if you eat the foods that are fit for human beings, you can eat as much of them, and therefore you don't need to count calories, because you're just eating the foods that don't make you sick. So you don't suddenly gain weight uncontrollably. I mean, it's obvious, okay? And I hate to say it's that simple, but it is. Anyway, thank you for your time. And no, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to cheat, although I really do. I really would quite like that apple there. Oh, look at that. Yeah, if you do have the chance, to grow your own food as well, I mean, that's amazing. Potatoes, for example, they're very easy to grow. All right. Well, add just 1 or 2 more calories. But yeah, you can grow your own food as well if you can. That's super easy. Potatoes are super easy to grow in your garden in a very small area. So I'll add that there. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.